Hi friends, today I want to take you through the next step in building your own personal workspace or professional workspace on Notion for that matter, and that is adding documents and notes to your workspace. So you'll see previously when we just go to our data vault here, we added clients, projects and tasks, and we created a very preliminary dashboard where you could see all of these things. And if you haven't seen that video, then I'll link it down below and you can just go and rewatch that video or just watch it for the first time in order to see how we came to this point. But for today, we want to add documents because we are working with so much knowledge and information. We want to be able to structure it accordingly, make sure it's in the right place and have quick access to it as part of everything else that we're working on a daily basis. And today I'm going to show you how to quickly do that. Now, of course, we do have things like Microsoft Word, Google Docs, Pages if you're on Mac, all these other things that are in essence also word processors and strive to store information and link things to other things. But I have found that with Notion and its robust and sophisticated documentation specifications and just the way it handles it, making it quickly accessible and having it inline accessible with all your other work just makes it easier for me. So if that is you as well, or you identify with that, you have that need, then allow me to show you how we plug documents and notes into our Notion workspace. So as with everything, we're going to be building with AI, with Notion's built-in AI. Nowadays, we're just accepting AI as self-evident. Know that if you're working in Notion, artificial intelligence and having agentic workflows available in your workspace is part of the paid plan. So if you're not on the paid plan, I greatly encourage you to do that. And so if you want to have a couple of days free and just see how it works for you, then I have a special link for you in the description below as well. You can click register your account, and then when you're ready, upgrade to the paid, I think it's the business plan. Anyway, so the very first thing we're going to do is add a documents database and add a notes database to our data vault. And once again, we're putting all our databases here in the data vault so that we know nobody messes with them. This is the source of our data. Building views on top of this databases allows us then to only work with lenses on that data, if you will, and not potentially delete all our massively important data. Right, so let's get started. I'm going to open my AI here, and because we are building for now, I'm just going to switch to auto, and we know it doesn't take so long. It doesn't have to think so much. Database operations are not thinking or research heavy. The first thing we're going to do is go to Data Vault and say, add a documents database to this page called demo_documents. It needs to have the following properties: title for the document, the date that it was added, who it was added by. Those two are metadata properties. Then you also need to have a multi-choice property option that helps me choose what type of document is this. Is this a resource? Is this content? Is this strategy? What is it? And only do that for now. Let's send that off and see what it does. I forgot to say it needs to be a full page database, but we'll see what it builds, and we'll have the option, as with most AI things, have the option to manually tweak it later, and you'll get an idea of how we do that today as well. All right, so it added the database for me here. Let's quickly just do some housekeeping here. We're going to change the name to, let's just see what our other ones are called. Demo. So this one's going to be called Demo Documents. And we're just going to give it an icon, which is our normal little star icon here. And let's just go through everything. Title, document type. We can choose whether this is a resource, content, strategy, other. Yes, date added and added by me. Yes, that is perfect. Of course, for your specific documents, you can add as many properties as you want. Experiment with what will help you later on filter and build views based on those properties. But for now, this is more than enough. All right, going back to our projects homepage here, we've added our documents database. Now we want to create relations because we want certain documents to be filed or connected to projects or clients. So let's set that up. We're going to go back to Data Vault. We're going to go back to demo documents, and we're going to build with AI. What I want you to do now is create relation properties for this documents database that connects to both clients and projects. It needs to be a two-way relation so that we can see on the documents database which clients and which projects this documents the data belongs to. Let's send that off and then see how it builds. That's great. I created two-way relation properties from demo documents to both demo clients and demo projects. So let's just see what's going on here. The property is a two-way relation and there's no limit. That is great. And on project, it is a two-way relation and there is no limit. Okay, that is awesome. So what I'm going to do for now, just to give us an idea of how this works, I'm going to add some demo content to this, some mock content, so that we can just get an idea of how a document database can potentially look and operate once it has some content in it. Okay, excellent. We have, I think, about 20 mock documents in here, all filled out with a specific title. Let's just draw this out so that we can see what the titles are. These are, of course, not real. They're just documents that we made up with a type, the date added by myself, and then we have the client there and the project there. So from here on, we can just link to that client. We can see who that client is. We can add another properties, because keep in mind, there are no limit to how many properties can be connected to a single document. And we can click on those and navigate straight to either that client or the project. So that helps a lot. What I'm going to do is just change the icon here. I don't like it when it's too colorful or have too many icons. So we're just going to click on this, select all of them, edit icon, go to icons, and we're going to choose documents, and we're just going to add a document icon there, unselect them. There you go. Nice and neat. So now when we go back to Data Vault, we can see that we have all our databases here, and documents is the latest one, and it's connected to both projects and clients. You can, of course, also create a relation to tasks. My experience is just in a normal project management workflow, it's not necessary that much. Maybe for you it is, for me it isn't. But let's go to documents, and before that, let's just go back to my projects and track here with our video. We've created relations. Now let's do a quick documents walkthrough to show you how Notion goes about actually working with text and content in an actual document. All right, so let's quickly walk through how documents actually work and what you can do with content inside a document. So for this very first one, Acme Retail Partner Pitch, I've created some mock content here. So you can just click on open and it'll open like this. You can also click on expand and it'll expand in a full page, like with any other database entry in Notion. Oh, just a quick note. Why do we put documents in databases and not as single pages on another page? That is actually a good question. And the reason for that is so that we can organize the data. Because with database entries, you can connect properties to it so that you can filter for entries. You can build views around it. You can sort it and group it. You can easily find it. You can attach metadata properties to it, like who created it, when it was created, when it was last updated, who updated it. So it just creates so much more control over the filing and finding and identification of your data, in this case documents, than you would do for like a Word document that was just stored on your desktop, or a Google Documents file that was filed somewhere in a folder in Google Drive. So that's why we do that. It just makes it super easy to interact with that data. And I think most importantly, for me at least, I suspect for you as well, quickly find what you're looking for. So here we have, you'll see if it opens up, we'll have the title right at the top, and then all the properties for the document here, and then have some mock content here at the bottom, and we'll get to that in a moment. So the first thing we want to do is potentially move some of these properties around so that it makes sense to us. So right at the top, we want to see, for example, what type of document this is. Then we want to see when it was added. Then we want to see who it was added by, and then we can see who the client is and who the project is. If you click on any of these little handles here at the top, you'll see you can change that even further. You can have the property visibility being hidden when it's empty or always being hidden. You can customize the layout, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you can take some of these properties and move them over to the side, to a side panel. Notion gives you the ability to be very flexible in the layout of your document, but we're not going to do any of those now. We just want to have it nice and neat so that we can see what's going on. And then in the content of the document, you'll see we have all kinds of formatting and UI elements going on here. And how you get to any of that is super easy. Let me just open up a couple of lines here. You'll know that traditional word processing documents were actually an offshoot of typewriters, of how we used to type, pressing enter, going to the next line, clearing text, and working like a typewriter would, just in a digital way. Well, Notion documents and many other apps that also work on this framework has completely reimagined how you interact with text in a document, not informed by typewriters, but actually informed by codes and terminals and how developers work with text. And how it works here is, instead of having a contextual window where you format things that is always available, like in Word or Pages, for example, you press / and then you have access to all kinds of what Notion calls content blocks. And these exist in blocks. Let me show you. If I grab any of these blocks, you'll see there's a little handle here, and all these little content formats exist in a block. So if I grab this, I can move it anywhere, I can put it somewhere. If I select a couple of blocks together, you see I can grab all of these and put it somewhere else. But if I want to create a new block, I'll just hit / and then be confronted with all the types of formatting blocks that I can create, whether it's text or headings, or bullet list, or numbered list, or toggles, which is super interesting, or call out blocks, or even another page, because pages in Notion exist in an infinitely nested fashion, which means I can create more pages on existing pages and then open that page and have even more pages nested on that page, which creates just such a great infrastructure for building information on top of each other and creating nested information architectures, if you will. So let's just say, for example, here I want to create a heading. I want to say this is a heading, and then below that I want to create / let's say some text, and say this is a paragraph, and then underneath that I want to hit / again and say this is a bulleted list, and I want to say this is, for example, item 1, item 2, item 3, and go on and go so forth. There are, of course, shortcuts for all of these things. So, for example, if I don't want to hit / and choose bullet, I can just say star space and it'll create a bullet for me. Or, for example, I can just say arrow space and it'll create a toggle list for me. Or I can just, for example, highlight text like this, and Option Command 1 will create heading 1, 2 will create heading 3, and so on and so forth. So it is important to potentially learn these shortcuts if you want to be more intuitive and fast with how you handle content on documents. So that comes to how we can then, one other thing about formatting documents is you can also take existing, if you've already added all your content blocks, you can also, for example, highlight text, and then there will be a contextual pop-up menu where you can change some of the elements of an existing block more easily. So for example, here we can change what type of text it is. Here we can change, for example, if we want it highlighted, or we want to change the color of the font. Here we can change whether we want it bold, italics, whether we want to insert a link or strike it out or change it into code or create a formula, all kinds of other things. But I think one of the most important things is to collaborate on documents. And that is our next step. How do we then share this with somebody and then collaborate on that text? let's do sharing first, because that was normally how your workflow would go. So say, for example, you created a document and now you want to share it with a colleague or a team member, and you want to make sure they have access to it and they can edit it according to their permissions. That is super easy in Notion. You just click on share, and then like with any of these other apps or platforms, you can enter their email address. So say, for example, I wanted to share this with Lisa. I'm just going to go ahead and choose Lisa over there. And then I can choose what her permission should be. So whether it is for her having full access of the document, just being able to edit, suggest, or comment, or just being able to comment without being able to edit the contents of the document. Or, for example, if I want her to be aware of the contents but not be able to edit anything, I can just say she can only view the document. So I'm going to choose she can edit, suggest, and comment on this document. And then I'm going to invite her, and she's going to get an email notification saying she's been invited to this document. When she signs in, she'll be able to have permissions to see this specific document and edit everything. Keep in mind that if you have other databases or other pages nested on this document, they do carry over the permissions of the top level sharing that you have activated. So if there were other pages or databases on this document, Lisa would then also have access to all those pages and databases that are nested within this document. So that is how you share something. You can also just copy this link and create a general access permission. So say, for example, we don't only want people invited, we want anybody on the web that has this link to be able to view this document or comment and suggest. But say for now, we only want them to view. We're sending it to a lot of people in an email. We're not going to invite everybody via their personal email address. We just want to include a single link so everybody can view this. We're going to say copy that link, and then we can send that link in WhatsApp or on email or instant message in Slack, wherever you want, and everybody that just clicks on it will be able to view the document. You can do that as well. So once a document has been shared with somebody, how do we collaborate on the content of that document? That is actually super easy. Say, for example, I'm looking at this list and I want to maybe change something here, or I want to send a comment to the author. I'm just going to highlight that element that I want to comment on and click on comment in the pop-up window, and then I'll be able to leave a comment saying this is a comment. If I want that comment to be specifically directed at somebody, say for example Lisa, I'm just going to hit @ I'm going to start typing her name, and I'm going to say this is a comment, and I'm going to hit enter, and then Lisa will get a notification in Notion and via email, if she set it up like that, that she has a comment on this document. And you can do that with every single block, every single element. We can leave comments. We can also leave comments on a page level basis right at the top, saying this is another comment. This is another comment, and you can leave that there. You can also tag people on page level basis, but if you leave it there, you'll see, or if you hit enter, you'll see that this comment applies to the whole page, not necessarily to a specific type of content. We can also suggest edits, which is super useful as well. And you can get to suggest edits via two ways. You can either select a certain piece of text and in the pop-up window, choose this button here that says suggest edits. If you hit that, you'll be able to now edit content, and without your edit distracting the actual content on the page. Let me show you. So say if I didn't want to say this document outlines the story arc, I rather wanted it to say this document outlines the narrative arc, it's going to suggest that edit. And then when the original author sees my comment, he'll or she'll be able to accept it or reject it, just like you would in a normal word processing document. Keep in mind that unlike comments, suggesting edits is a mode that is now activated. So I can keep on suggesting edits, changing the text until I'm done, and then I have to deactivate suggest edits to be able to just interact with the text in a normal way. We can also activate the suggest edit modes by going to our 3-button menu right at the top of the document, scrolling down and hitting suggest edits here in the menu, and then suggesting will be turned on again for us as well. This is a super cool way to actually contribute your input to a document to make it easy for the original author to either accept or decline your exact edits. So you know what you've written here will be exactly like that. It's not a vague or a generic comment. And that is how we share and collaborate on documents. Let's go back to projects. We did formatting of blocks, commenting and suggesting edits, sharing of documents. If we go to our data vault, we hit documents again, you'll see here's all our documents again. Next up, we're going to be talking about how to create views that have a user-friendly UI to them, that you can easily find everything in your project management database. So look out for that video, that's coming soon. But that's that from me for now. I'll see you in the next one.